Can AI help us build a better YouTube channel? That's what we're exploring this week in the Data Radio Show. Hello there, and welcome to this week's episode of the Data Radio Show. This week, we're exploring the use of AI in building content streams, specifically ours. Before we kick off, though, with a bit of an explanation, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It being halfway through the year, we wanted to revamp our YouTube page a bit, and we've got some content on there that we're really proud of. And there's some highly technical stuff and some fun stuff and a range of topics and experts that we know audiences can learn a lot from. But we also know that there's a lot of great content creators out there in the same space, and we don't want to come across like we're copying them. After all, they're brilliant at what they do. We like to think we offer something a little bit different. But sometimes, like all content creators, we get a little too close to a project and can miss changes that would be better for the audience. So we asked for help from Google's deep research. We set it on a mission, do an analysis of the channel, the DataPro newsletter, and the classroom that we have on Skool and tell us what we can do better. It took 4 hours, but the final analysis was incredibly in-depth, and it had some surprisingly good feedback that we hadn't considered. It gave us an objective perspective, so we've implemented the suggested changes. Here, let me show you. The first thing that we did was look at what worked well, some of which we can't even take credit for, and that's the Data Vault Friday sessions from Scale Free. Each Friday they answer a user question about Data Vault, often hosted by one of the co-creators of the model, Michael Olszymski. And while that came through automatically on our YouTube channel as a shared playlist, it seemed to be relatively popular with the AI. The other element that worked really well apparently was our most popular section, although it suggested an update to make sure that the content here was still relevant to audiences, which, makes a lot of sense. So those two were definitely staying. It also pointed out that while we have content made for people with a varying range of skill and experience levels, we didn't do a great job of delineating the difference. So we did two things to correct this. We created specific playlists, beginner, intermediate, expert, and one there for the DataPro.News podcast, a weekly podcast that we use Notebook LM to create based on our weekly newsletter, and an other stuff section. Here's where you'll find more generalized content like our weekly dive into historical figures around data like Alan Turing or Grace Hopper, or Tim Berners-Lee, as well as other deep dives that we do like our Data Battleground series, which highlights the mostly real-world outcomes of data use that helped highlight to the wider public the importance of data management and privacy. And then we color-coded the content. It seemed like a really simple change to make in hindsight. We created all new thumbnails using a really simple system based on our logo. The bright blue content is for beginners, people who are just starting out in data, maybe looking at a career change, or wanting to learn more about some of the organizations that we work with and the tools that they have. The darker blue is what we've called intermediate level. It's more detailed content for people who have some experience in the field, a little bit more technical, but actually still really accessible. And then we have the orange expert level. This content is much more technical and specific. Here you'll find case study presentations, masterclasses, expert information and advice. And then for the other content, we've made it purple because it's in the logo and not because it's Patrick Starr's favorite color. The other element of design that we've updated is faces. The analysis pointed out that we needed more human faces to help people engage with the content, but also that they didn't need to be photo-real, because often data professionals will look at the staged thumbnails of some creators and be turned off by it. You guys are a pragmatic bunch, you understand, but a face still helps people connect if they don't know the content. So we've updated a lot of the images that we use to create a range of image styles so that we could use them across the thumbnails. On top of that, we'll also be looking at changing up some of the content more with human connections, for example, like our weekly DataPro.News podcast, and using the content guides on the YouTube page to help inform content, classrooms, and conversations on Skool, and vice versa, taking what we see there and bringing it through into the content that we create. And all of this, sure, it looks very pretty and ordered, but the outcomes are probably what you're here for. Within 4 days of these changes, we found a 4% increase in follower count, a 2% increase in click-through rates, and an increase of 2 minutes average view time, and an increased impression rate of 47%. We saw a significant jump in viewer time focusing on content that viewers felt matched their competency level, with expert level content suddenly being the content with the longest viewer retention over the podcast newsletter audio, which had dominated that particular metric for months. Of course, it is early days for the changes, but the insights we gained by using an AI tool like Google Deep Dive have so far given us a bit of a boost by knowing the way that Google-specific algorithms work. And if you're listening to this as an audio podcast on a podcast platform, then come on, I invite you to go and check out the page. It's linked in the description along with our newsletter, the sign-up page for it, and of course our Skool Classroom. Right, I think that's it for this week. A relatively short one in comparison. No interview to sit down and have to learn about stuff directly. But make sure that you hit that like button if you haven't done so already, or subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Make sure you live long, prosper, be one with the force, and I will catch you guys all next time.